Kogan again, Man Cave Classroom at 810. Took some more documents from the U.S. history of Regents, so no
It's almost like
here.
we want high school kids to start watching this.
Yeah, we want to help them out too. But I mean, again, we cover U.S. history in 8th grade.
It's not like it changed.
It's not like it changed.
Battle
and
of
of course,
Gettysburg, still Battle of Gettysburg.
You're going to see it in 11th grade as well.
Yep.
But when we're looking at these documents, here we have this. We have another document here, and then of course we have that. And what they're asking you on the history of Regents here is, why is it? Excuse me. Based on the documents, why is it important for President Abraham Lincoln to speak to the nation after the Battle of Gettysburg? So I know we talk about the Gettysburg Address, and here's just a picture of him giving it. But when we're talking about the importance of it now. When it comes to the Battle of Gettysburg, I mean, there have been many movies, books, things have studied. You've gone there. I've gone there. The place is breathtaking.
I can't spend enough time.
Exactly
at Gettysburg.
Exactly.
Like we spent driving my brother's wedding recently. We spent maybe 3 hours. Really quickly, just drove through the battlefield.
It's not even enough.
Not even enough for just Devil's Den.
Yeah, that was the one place that I spent the most time.
Oh, me too.
I mean, because here you had these boulders in this middle of this
picturing
battlefield.
the Union Army at the top, the Confederates trying to breach the top of the crest.
And of course, when you're looking at this huge battlefield, you think, and you stop, you look, and it's a quiet area, so there's minimal traffic there, and to look at this huge landscape. Where you're fighting this in the Civil War, we're looking at the 1860s. You're not talking about an industrialized war, and to only imagine the bloodshed that was taking place at this particular place. Yep. So, since we're talking about bloodshed, how much bloodshed? I mean, geez. Civil War battle casualties, Vicksburg, 19,000. Now, of course, when we're looking at casualties, one person getting hurt or killed, that's a lot. All right, let's just put that in perspective. Every person has at least two people, a mother or father, that care about them. But in terms of numbers, when you're looking at numbers, especially when it comes to wars, you're looking, a couple hundred, that's not too much. No, it's a lot. One person getting hurt or killed is a lot. So now we're looking at numbers right here that have commas with them. Numbers with commas, you're talking about huge. And of course, 19,000, and as the war went on, now we're getting up to the Battle of Gettysburg, where you're looking at over 51,000 casualties.
And what I'm noticing too is that many of these are multiple month battles.
Yeah.
The siege at Vicksburg.
Yep.
Several days and or weeks. Gettysburg was 3 days.
3 days. 3 days, 51,000.
3 days. Antietam was the single bloodiest day
Right.
in the history. That's not even up here because it was just a one-day battle. It's the single bloodiest day. But Gettysburg is the bloodiest battle in American history.
So in that number, when we're looking at 51,000 casualties, you're talking either dead or seriously wounded. And when you're talking about seriously wounded, you had people, in order to treat infection with gunshot wounds to the arm, I mean, often the case was that it was getting amputated.
Yep.
So you're wounded is
because what the mini
putting
ball,
it mildly,
what the mini ball did to a bone,
yes,
was unheard of in warfare.
And if you're missing a limb, let's face it, your life is forever changed. 51,000, what does that look like? Yankee Stadium filled up. Because that's what the capacity is there. I think they were at 51,000, 50,000, whatever the case may be. Okay, so if we're starting to look at why is it important for President Abraham Lincoln to speak at this, all right, well, you could speak to the other battles in this speech as well, but when you're looking here, 51,000, that's pretty much important. Why else? Where is Gettysburg located?
It's in Pennsylvania. It's in the north. It's the only major battle of the war fought in the north. Lee's plan to invade the north and bring the battle to the Union. That does fail. It is July. Interestingly, Vicksburg and Gettysburg are being fought the same exact time. They both end on the 4th of July, America's birthday. These two are considered the turning point. General Grant is sieging Vicksburg, while Meade is defeating Lee here at Gettysburg. They're the turning points in the war.
Right.
So maybe there's a little bit of that
If
ties
you're the
into.
South, if you win at this particular battle, you're feeling pretty good about yourself.
Yeah.
Winning a battle in the North,
Yeah.
maybe now you can set up shop there and start to branch out.
And there's so many things on my mind. Like, how did they just bump into each other on July 1st?
Yes,
It was like-
because the intel reports weren't accurate.
Yeah,
as
shoes.
well.
There were shoes supposedly at the train station. But after this battle, it's decided we're going to build our nation's first national cemetery. Because of the amount of casualties. You are July. You don't have time to bury the bodies. as they're bursting from the summer heat.
Correct me if I'm wrong, there was also a lot, when rain was contributing to this, you know, those bodies that weren't dug really deep would kind of surface again.
Yeah.
Which
You know,
is
but
another problem.
in the sweltering heat of,
Yeah.
of early July, Pennsylvania, bodies were bloating from the decomposition germs and chemicals and
Sure.
gases, and literally bursting like a water balloon. So the Union Army had to bury them really, really quickly, digging mass graves, unmarked graves, unknown graves. Talking about the tomb of the unknown soldier. There's a massive tomb that says like 600 soldiers are buried here. We don't know who they were. You know, so it's decided that they will create the nation's first national cemetery here.
So, in that breath, let's look here.
Yeah.
We'll start with the source. Bruce Catton, hope I didn't pronounce that incorrectly. The Battle of Gettysburg, American Heritage Publishing. So this is from a book. Now this is 1963.
So 100 years, published 100 years after the battle.
So there's a lot of time that goes by. Probably a lot of pieces of the puzzle that you can put
Right.
together.
Writes this book as the centennial celebration of the battle or remembrance of the battle.
At this point in time, you've had plenty of time to hopefully go through documents
Yeah.
from that particular war. Maybe looking at some newspaper articles from that war.
No one who fought in the battle is alive anymore.
No.
The 50th anniversary there were.
Yeah.
In 1913,
Yeah.
you know, they come, the Union and Confederate soldiers came, they celebrated their, I don't want to say achievement, but celebrated their,
Even celebrate. It's a tough.
Yeah,
one to throw out there too.
remembrance.
Yeah.
You know, but they
Or
shook
commemorate.
hands,
Yeah, there we go.
shook hands, played games. So.
All right, so let's see what he had to write here. The country needed some sort of ceremony at Gettysburg. The shock of this battle had gone into the bones and sinews of people all the way from Minnesota to Maine. Thousands of men had died, thousands more had been maimed, and many other thousands had lived through 3 days of the most agonizing experience. After the battle, the armies had gone down into Virginia, and all through the summer and fall, they had been moving back and forth, colliding now and then, striking sparks with skirmishes of cavalry and infantry outposts, fighting small battles, moving and shooting and wasting men. The war seemed to be going on, and nobody could see the end of it. It was clear enough that in some mysterious way, the fight at Gettysburg had symbolized everything that the nation was trying to do, everything for which it had given its sons, for which homes in every city and town and country hamlet had known the grief of loss and final separation. And to dedicate this cemetery in Pennsylvania was somehow to pay a tribute to the young men who had been killed and to the families that had lost them. Whew. We did a good job of characterizing it.
Yeah.
When you're talking about that loss, I mean, we don't time these perfectly with what we're going to say, and we're not doing a script, but the way you're describing the battlefield and the carnage that took place, and you know the dead that were on the battlefield, you know, those people had families.
Yeah.
So this was, you know, and he's ending here, you know, to the many young men who had been killed and to the families who had lost them. So it was perfect in that sense.
And they say that this battle really just summed up the entire Civil War. It was a struggle. You know, our country is ripped apart, brother against brother, cousin against cousin. And it goes on. And when is it going to end? You know, and so we're going to dedicate this ceremony, this cemetery. Abraham Lincoln is invited there to say, I believe, a few fitting and proper words.
Right.
Fitting and proper words. He wasn't even the primary speaker that day.
No.
I forget the man's name,
Oh,
but he spoke,
for like an hour and a
Yeah,
half.
like
He's
an
the
hour and a
greatest
half.
orator of his time.
hour and a half. Lincoln.
I always forget his name. when we come
Lincoln
up with this
scribbles
one.
down 270 something words.
75 words, 10 sentences.
275 words on the back of an envelope.
Right.
On the back of an envelope.
So before we start actually reciting that speech, because that's how memorable it is, let's just make sure we're staying on here. So why was it important? You know, we talk about the death toll. Mr. Hogan's definitely describing what that battlefield looks like. Why else is it important? Some things that I mentioned here. You know, this is wind up, you know, to those who were killed, you know, the skirmishes that wind up continued to take place, thousands of men who had died, more had been maimed, something else that you alluded to before.
But even here, the fight at Gettysburg had symbolized everything the nation was trying to do.
Thank you for that.
You know, and that's where Lincoln's speech, you know, comes in and really just reminds us why this war is going on. Because by 1863 into 1864, the war's still going to be fought for another 14 months.
Yeah.
You know, why are so many men dying? 600,000 plus young men dying in this war. Why is this happening?
Is that one shot?
There he is. Everyone always thinks it's this guy. It's
Yep.
not. He's right here. He's actually returning to his seat because the speech was so quick. The cameraman is getting set up, and he figured Lincoln, who was known for
To speak.
and loved to speak. The cameraman figured he had enough time to get the camera set up, because kids don't today understand like cameras and like the tripod that went into it. And it was like a blanket.
Blanket
They
or
had
a
to
case, whatever it is.
expose the aperture or whatever it was.
Ooh,
that
good
like
one.
he literally catches him as he's returning to his seat after the speech. And most people there were like,
Yeah. Right.
"What did we just hear?" They didn't realize it.
Who knew that, years later you'd be looking at this.
Right, and
studying
it really wasn't until it was published in the newspapers the next day and people had a chance to read it and analyze it that their minds were blown by the words that Lincoln had come up with that day.
Cool. We miss anything?
4 score. No, I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah. All right, well, thank you for watching.